our short meditation, let us look at the life of Nehemiah and certain principles from his life that enable him to be used by God for the work of rebuilding. First, we see his consecration to God's service. Nehemiah loved the Lord and was fully consecrated for his purpose, as he called himself the Lord's servant. Consecration is a dedication to a special purpose or service. Repentance is the beginning of consecration. It needs to be renewed and sustained for consecration to happen. It is being sensitive to God's call. It is offering our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. Unconsecrated minds will not be able to hear God. Secondly, we see Nehemiah's eagerness for communication. As Nehemiah inquired about the condition of Jerusalem, he received the knowledge about the broken down, pathetic state of Jerusalem, and he brought this matter before God. There are many needs all around us. Every need may not be a call, but the need can become the occasion for our call, as Oswald Chambers put it. As we know and understand the needs, and as we bring them before God, praying for Him to intervene, God may place specific burdens in our hearts, which becomes a call for us to obey. Self-absorbed souls cannot be led in this manner. Again, we see the concern that Nehemiah had for God's cause. This concern for God's glory caused Nehemiah to mourn and fast and pray. In his prayer, he confessed the sins of God's people, remembering and claiming God's promises, making himself available for God's service. He was willing to be an answer to his prayer if God's kingdom would advance. As we seek God's kingdom first in our lives, we desire to see the glory of God revealed. It gives us a concern for the people who are going through pain and suffering. Fourthly, we see Nehemiah's continuance in prayer. Nehemiah prayed for more than 3 months before he received an answer to his prayer. He prayed along with his friends that God would act that very day. Nothing seemed to happen for many days, but God was working out His plans. His prayer was not simple, but a crying out before God. If we know we are making the right request before God, and God has laid it in our heart, we may still have to continue to pray till we receive an answer. God's timing may be different from ours, and we need to persevere in prayer even in difficult and impossible situations. Finally, there was a circumstantial confirmation in Nehemiah's life. The king notices Nehemiah's sad face, which is a dangerous situation for Nehemiah. But God put favor in the king's heart, and he released him from his responsibility and provided the resources that were needed to fulfill God's call on Nehemiah's life. God's answers to prayers can come in miraculous and unexpected ways as we keep praying and trusting God. Now Nehemiah knew for sure that God had called him to this work, and that He would be with him and enable him to do the work. In his journey ahead, Nehemiah was totally focused on God. He set the right goals. He planned things wisely, worked very hard, dealt with each problem with God's wisdom and grace, and he did not allow himself to be distracted or discouraged at any time. Let us examine ourselves in the light of Nehemiah's life. Are we fully consecrated for God's service? Do we eagerly try to know the needs and concerns around us? Do we really have a concern for God's cause and glory? Are we continuing in prayer concerning the burdens God has laid on us? Are we waiting on God to open the right doors? When we see broken walls before us in our churches and communities, it is easy for us to judge and criticize. But are we willing to take up the matter before God and pray for His intervention? Are we willing to put God first, others second, and ourselves last as we serve Him? Are we willing to let go our ease and comfort and take up the risk of doing His will?